Jesus didn't tell stories to make people feel good. He told them to separate the crowd from the true disciples. For 2,000 years, people have treated the parables of Jesus like simple fables, nice little moral lessons about being kind and sharing your bread. But that is a complete illusion. The parables aren't just fables, they are an invasion plan. They're a deeply encoded blueprint revealing exactly how the kingdom of heaven operates. It's a real kingdom pattern hidden right in plain sight. When you look at the sower, the mustard seed, or the hidden treasure, you don't just see ancient farm life. You see a radical, subversive reality crashing into the present moment. And the stakes couldn't be higher, because if you miss the pattern, you miss everything. Jesus literally stood before the masses and cried out, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." So listen closely. We're going to break down the parables to uncover the real pattern he left behind. In Matthew chapter 13, Jesus shifts his entire teaching strategy. He stops speaking plainly. He gets into a boat, pushes out into the water, and looks back at a massive crowd. And he starts talking about a farmer sowing seed. People hear this and think he is giving agricultural advice, but the disciples know something is up. They come to him in private and ask the question we all should be asking: why speak in parables? Jesus drops a massive revelation. He tells them it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. Pause and think about that. He intentionally hid the truth. He concealed it so that only those who actually wanted the truth would dig for it. The casual crowd gets a story. The hungry disciple gets the secrets of the universe. So what is the secret in the parable of the sower? The seed is the word of the kingdom. The soils are the human heart. He lists 4 types of ground: the hard path, the rocky soil, the thorny ground, and the good soil. The hard path is the person who hears the word but doesn't understand it. Immediately, the enemy comes and snatches it away. The seed never even penetrates the dirt. Then comes the rocky ground. This person hears the message and instantly receives it with joy. They look like the ultimate convert, but there is no root. When trouble or persecution comes, they fall away. They vanish. The thorny ground is perhaps the most dangerous. The seed grows, the plant looks healthy, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the life out of it. It produces absolutely nothing. And finally, the good soil. This is the heart that hears the word, understands it, and bears fruit. Some 30, some 60, and some 100 times what was planted. The pattern here is critical. People expected a warrior king to overthrow Rome with swords and chariots, but Jesus says no. The kingdom starts as a tiny, vulnerable seed. It requires the right environment to grow. If your heart is hard, rocky, or crowded with garbage, it will die in you. The kingdom advances, but it only takes root in prepared ground. He doesn't stop there. He keeps hammering this exact same pattern. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 31, Jesus compares the kingdom to a mustard seed. He says it is the smallest of all seeds, but when it grows, it becomes a massive tree, and the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. Again, the crowd expects an explosive, world-altering event. But the real pattern of the kingdom is slow, invisible growth that eventually overtakes everything. It starts so incredibly small that most people ignore it, but it possesses an unstoppable life force. He backs this up in the parable of the yeast. He talks about a woman who takes yeast and hides it in 3 measures of flour until the whole batch is leavened. Yeast works silently. You can't hear it. You can't see the individual microscopic organisms working, but it radically transforms the entire lump of dough from the inside out. The kingdom of heaven operates the exact same way. It infects the culture. It penetrates the human heart silently, secretly, and then completely takes over. This is why the religious leaders missed him. They were looking for earthquakes and lightning strikes. Jesus brought a seed and a pinch of yeast. The power of God is hidden in the ordinary. And if you aren't paying attention, if your heart isn't properly prepared like that good soil, you will walk right past it. No, so Jesus has established that the kingdom starts small and grows silently. But then he pivots. He zeroes in on its true value. In Matthew 13:44, he says, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. A man finds it, hides it again, and then, in his absolute joy, he goes and sells everything he has to buy that field." Think about the madness of this scene. His friends probably thought he'd lost his mind. Why sell your house, your tools, your livestock just to buy a piece of dirt? Because they couldn't see what was under the surface. He isn't making a sacrifice, he's making the ultimate trade. The kingdom costs you everything, but it's worth infinitely more than what you give up. He hits the exact same note in the very next breath. He talks about a merchant searching for fine pearls. When he finds one pearl of great price, he goes and sells everything he owns to buy it. This isn't about giving 10% on a Sunday. This is total liquidation. He's saying if you want the kingdom, it costs you your entire life. But here's where the pattern gets dark, because not everyone buys the field, not everyone wants the pearl. And Jesus knows people are looking around at the world asking a very human question. If the kingdom is here, why is there still so much evil? Jesus answers this with the parable of the weeds. A farmer sows good seed in his field. But while everyone is sleeping, an enemy comes and sows weeds right among the wheat. When the plants sprout, the weeds come up right alongside them. The servants panic. They want to rip the weeds out immediately. But the master says no. He tells them to let both grow together until the harvest. If you pull up the weeds now, you might uproot the wheat with them. This shatters the religious expectation of a sudden utopian purge. The kingdom of heaven operates in hostile territory. Good and evil are going to grow side by side in the same field, drinking the same rain, feeling the same sun. God is restraining his judgment right now to protect the true harvest. But that restraint has an expiration date. Jesus ends this teaching block with a terrifying image. He compares the kingdom to a dragnet cast into the sea. It catches every single kind of fish. They drag the heavy net onto the shore, sit down, and start sorting. The good fish go into baskets. The bad fish get thrown away. Then Jesus strips away all the metaphors. He looks right at them and says, "This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous. They will throw them into the blazing furnace where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." The pattern is clear. The kingdom is incredibly valuable. It grows alongside radical evil, and it ends in a devastating absolute separation. You cannot ride the fence. You're either the wheat or the weed. You're either the good fish or the one cast into the fire. The kingdom isn't just about growth and judgment. It fundamentally destroys human economics. Jesus completely flips the script on how we understand fairness and debt. Think about the parable of the unforgiving servant in Matthew chapter 18. A king decides to settle accounts. A man is brought to him who owes 10,000 talents. That is millions of dollars, an unpayable, impossible amount of money. The king orders him, his wife, and his children to be sold to pay the debt. The servant falls on his knees begging for patience. And what does the king do? He doesn't set up a payment plan. He completely cancels the debt. He wipes the slate clean. But then this exact same servant walks out and finds a fellow servant who owes him 100 denarii, a few bucks. He grabs the man by the throat and starts choking him. He demands his money. He throws him in prison. When the king finds out, he is furious. He hands the wicked servant over to the torturers. The pattern here is vital. If you receive the absurd radical forgiveness of the kingdom, you must become a conduit of it. If you harbor bitterness, you lock yourself in a prison of your own making. You cannot withhold what was freely given to you. Jesus hits this human obsession with fairness again in Matthew chapter 20. He tells the story of the workers in the vineyard. The landowner hires men at 6 a.m, agreeing to pay them a denarius for the day. He goes out again at 9, at noon, at 3, and finally at 5 in the afternoon, just 1 hour before quitting time. He hires men who have been standing around doing nothing all day long. When time comes to pay them, he starts with the guys hired last. He gives them a full day's wage. The guys who sweated through the scorching heat of the day think they're about to get rich, but they get the exact same amount. They are outraged. They complain to the landowner, "These men worked 1 hour and you made them equal to us." The landowner's response shatters religious pride. He asks, "I am not being unfair to you. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Are you envious because I am generous?" The kingdom of heaven doesn't run on hourly wages. God doesn't owe you anything for your religious resume. His grace is entirely his to give. And this leads right to the ultimate picture of this grace. The parable of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. A younger son tells his father he wants his inheritance right now. In that culture, he is essentially saying, I wish you were dead. He takes the money, runs to a distant country, and blows it all on wild living. He ends up feeding pigs and longing to eat their slop. He finally comes to his senses and heads home, rehearsing his apology. He just wants to be a hired servant. But while he is still a long way off, the father sees him. And the father does something scandalous. He hikes up his robes and sprints toward his rebellious son. He embraces him. He puts a ring on his finger and kills the fattened calf. The older brother, who stayed home and followed all the rules, is furious. He refuses to go to the party. The pattern of the kingdom offends the self-righteous. It reaches into the mud, pulls out the rebel, and crowns him. The kingdom doesn't care about your perfect track record. It demands surrender and celebrates redemption. So you understand the grace of the kingdom. You see the radical forgiveness. But do not make the fatal mistake of confusing grace with permission to sleep. Jesus hammers this reality in Matthew chapter 25. He tells the story of 10 virgins taking their lamps to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them are wise, 5 are foolish. The wise take flasks of oil with their lamps. The foolish just bring their lamps and nothing else. They assume everything will go according to schedule. The bridegroom is delayed. It gets late. They all fall asleep. At midnight, a cry rings out. Here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him. They all wake up and trim their lamps, but the foolish realize their flame is dying. They beg the wise for oil. The wise refuse, telling them to go buy their own. And while they're gone, the bridegroom arrives. The wise go in with him to the wedding feast, and the door is shut. The foolish come back and pound on the door. Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answers with the most terrifying words in Scripture. Truly I say to you, I do not know you. The pattern is brutal and clear. You must be ready. You cannot borrow someone else's oil. You cannot ride on someone else's faith when the midnight hour strikes. Jesus immediately rolls into the parable of the talents. A master leaves on a long journey. He hands his wealth over to his servants. He gives one man 5 talents, another 2, and another 1. A talent is a massive sum of money. The guys with 5 and 2 go to work. They trade. They hustle. They double the master's money. But the guy with 1 talent, he digs a hole and buries it. He is paralyzed by fear. He thinks his master is a hard man and he just wants to play it safe. When the master returns, he praises the first 2. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. But he looks at the third man who hid the money and explodes. You wicked and lazy servant. He takes the 1 talent away and throws the worthless servant into the outer darkness. The kingdom expects a return on investment. God gave you gifts, time, and breath. If you bury them because you are afraid of the world, you will be cast out. The kingdom is not a passive waiting room. It is an active occupation. Jesus preached this exact same ultimatum at the end of the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 7. He says, everyone who hears these words of his and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain falls, the floods come, the winds blow and beat on that house, but it does not fall. But everyone who hears his words and does not do them is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The exact same storm hits and the house falls. And great is its ruin. Notice the pattern. The storm hits both houses. Being in the kingdom does not exempt you from the hurricane. The difference is the foundation. Hearing the truth is completely useless if you don't act on it. But the kingdom doesn't just demand action. It completely destroys our human social boundaries. Jesus proved this by attacking the way people choose their friends and neighbors. Look at Luke chapter 14. Jesus sits at a dinner with prominent Pharisees and tells the story of the great banquet. A man prepares a massive feast and sends out invitations to all the important people. But when the food is ready and the servant tells them to come, they all start making excuses. One guy says he just bought a field and needs to see it. Another says he bought 5 yoke of oxen and needs to test them. A third says he just got married. They are all caught up in the mundane business of their own lives. The master of the house gets angry. He doesn't beg them. He doesn't delay the dinner. He looks at his servant and tells him to go quickly into the streets and alleys of the city and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. The servant does it, but there is still room. So the master issues a final, radical order: go out to the highways and the hedges and compel people to come in, so my house will be full. The pattern is stunning. The people who thought they had a reserved seat at the table missed out entirely. They were too busy. So God bypasses the elite and invites the outcasts. The religious insiders miss the party. And Jesus drives this stake even deeper in Luke chapter 10. A lawyer tries to justify himself by asking a highly technical question: who is my neighbor? He wants a theological debate. Jesus answers with the parable of the Good Samaritan. A man goes down from Jerusalem to Jericho and gets ambushed by robbers. They strip him, beat him half to death, and leave him bleeding in the dirt. A priest walks down the road, sees him, and crosses to the other side. A Levite does the exact same thing. These are the holy men, the temple workers. They don't want to get their hands dirty. But then a Samaritan comes along. You have to understand the hatred here. Jews and Samaritans despised each other. It was a vicious ancestral racism. But the Samaritan stops. He bandages the man's wounds, pouring on oil and wine. He puts him on his own animal, takes him to an inn, and pays out of his own pocket for the man's recovery. Jesus looks at the lawyer and asks, which of these three was a neighbor? The lawyer can't even bring himself to say the word Samaritan. He just mutters, the one who showed him mercy. The kingdom of heaven has no room for tribalism. It demands radical, boundary-breaking compassion. If your religion allows you to step over a bleeding man in the street to get to a church service, your religion is dead. Jesus doesn't just attack our social boundaries. He goes straight for the two things human beings trust the most: our money and our pride. Look at Luke chapter 12. Someone in the crowd asks Jesus to settle an inheritance dispute. Jesus refuses and instead tells the story of the rich fool. A wealthy farmer has a massive harvest. His land produces so much that he runs out of storage. So he talks to himself and says, what will I do? I know I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. It sounds like the ultimate retirement plan. But God interrupts him and says, you fool, this very night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? The pattern is undeniable. Earthly wealth gives an illusion of absolute control, but it is vapor. If you spend your entire life building an empire of dirt, you will die bankrupt in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus pushes this terrifying reality even further in Luke chapter 16. He tells the story of a rich man and a beggar named Lazarus. The rich man wears purple and fine linen, feasting in luxury every single day. Lazarus is covered in sores, lying at the rich man's gate, just hoping for scraps that fall from the table. The dogs even come and lick his wounds. Then death comes for both of them, the great equalizer. Lazarus is carried by angels to Abraham's side. The rich man dies, is buried, and wakes up in Hades. He is in absolute agony in the flames. He looks up and sees Abraham far away with Lazarus at his side. He begs Abraham to send Lazarus to just dip the end of his finger in water and cool his tongue. But Abraham says, child, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and Lazarus, in like manner, bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in anguish. Besides all this, a great chasm has been fixed between us. No one can cross it. The kingdom pattern is a total violent reversal of earthly status. If you build your kingdom here, you lose the one to come. And it is not just the rich who are in danger, it is the religious. In Luke chapter 18, Jesus tells a story specifically aimed at people who trusted in their own righteousness. Two men go up to the temple to pray. One is a Pharisee, a religious elite. The other is a tax collector, a known traitor and thief. The Pharisee stands up and prays, God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector stands far off. He won't even lift his eyes to heaven. He just beats his chest and cries out, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Jesus looks at his listeners and drops the hammer. He says the tax collector went down to his house justified, not the Pharisee. The kingdom pattern breaks human pride. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. You cannot impress God with your resume. You can only come with empty hands. Jesus is moving toward the cross. The parables stop being just warnings, they become direct, lethal accusations. In Matthew chapter 21, Jesus stands right in the temple. He looks directly at the chief priests and elders. He tells the story of the wicked tenants. A master plants a beautiful vineyard. He puts a massive wall around it, digs a wine vat, and builds a guard tower. He leases it out to tenants and leaves the country. When harvest time comes, he sends his servants to collect his share of the fruit. But the tenants grab them. They beat one. They kill another. They stone a third. The master sends a second group of servants, and the tenants do the exact same thing to them. Finally, the master decides to send his own son. He thinks, surely they will respect my son. But when the tenants see him coming, they say to themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him and take his estate. They drag him out of the vineyard and murder him in cold blood. Jesus pauses. He looks at the religious leaders and asks them a trap question. When the owner comes, what will he do to those tenants? They answer their own death sentence. They say he will completely destroy those miserable men and lease the vineyard to others who will actually give him the fruit. Jesus looks them in the eye and drops the hammer. He says, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people producing its fruits. The pattern is terrifying. God will not be mocked. Israel's leaders had beaten the prophets and were plotting to kill the son. God doesn't negotiate with corrupt tenants. He rips the kingdom out of their hands and gives it to whoever will actually bear the fruit. So, where does that leave us? How do we survive while we wait for the king to return? Jesus answers this in Luke chapter 18 with the parable of the persistent widow. He tells this story for one specific reason, to show them they must always pray and never give up. He describes a corrupt city judge. This guy does not fear God and does not care about people. A widow keeps coming to him day after day, demanding justice against her enemy. She has no money, she has no power, she only has her voice. For a long time, the judge completely ignores her. But finally he snaps. He says to himself, even though I don't fear God or respect man, this widow is driving me crazy. I will give her justice, just so she stops bothering me. Jesus says, listen to the unjust judge. Will not God give justice to his elect who cry out to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily. But Jesus ends this teaching with a question that should haunt every single one of us. He asks, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? The kingdom demands desperate, unrelenting persistence. You cannot passively wait. Do not stop crying out. You hammer on the doors of heaven until the king returns. We have reached the ultimate conclusion. Jesus has drawn the blueprint of how the kingdom grows, how it costs everything, and how it shatters human pride. But now he reveals the terrifying reality of the final curtain call. In Matthew chapter 22, Jesus tells a story that sounds a lot like the Great Banquet, but it has a deadly twist. A king throws a massive wedding feast for his son. The original guests refuse to come. Some even kill the messengers. So the king sends his army, destroys those murderers, and burns their city. Then he tells his servants to go out to the main roads and invite everyone they find, both bad and good. The wedding hall is completely packed. But then the king walks in to look at the guests. He spots one man sitting there who has no wedding garment. The king asks him, friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment? The man is totally speechless. He has no excuse. He tried to come to the king's table on his own terms, wearing his own street clothes. The king looks at his attendants and gives a chilling order. Bind him hand and foot and cast him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus finishes the story with a brutal summary. For many are called, but few are chosen. You can't just sneak into the kingdom. You must be wearing the absolute righteousness that only the king provides. You cannot fake it at the end. And this leads straight to the final sweeping, weeping vision of human history. In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus pulls back the veil entirely. He isn't talking about seeds or coins anymore. He says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory with all the angels, he will sit on his glorious throne. Every single nation will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, exactly like a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He puts the sheep on his right, he puts the goats on his left. He looks at the sheep and says, Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. He tells them he was hungry, thirsty, naked, sick, and in prison, and they cared for him. The righteous are confused. They ask, Lord, when did we ever see you like that? And the king answers, Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, like you did it to me. Then he turns to the goats on his left, and he drops the final devastating sentence of the age. Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. They ignored the hungry. They walked past the naked and the sick. They try to argue, saying they never saw him in need. But the king cuts them off. As you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. This is the ultimate kingdom pattern. The supreme test isn't your theology degree. It isn't how loud you sang. It is whether the radical, transforming love of the kingdom actually flowed through your hands to the most broken people on earth. The parables are not fables. They are the absolute unbending laws of reality. And the king is coming back to see what you did with the seed he planted. The pattern has been completely exposed. The kingdom of heaven isn't a fairy tale you read to children before bed. It's a hostile takeover of the human heart, demanding everything you have and offering an eternity you can't earn. You've heard the blueprint. You've seen the trap of human pride and the radical, offensive nature of his grace. Now, the only question left is, what kind of soil are you? If this message shattered the way you see the words of Jesus, don't let it stop here. Share this directly with someone who is entirely consumed by the temporary things of this world. Wake them up. And if you're ready to stop playing safe religious games and start digging for that hidden treasure, subscribe. We'll keep uncovering the raw, unfiltered truth of Scripture together. The King is at the door. Get your oil ready.